to another wonderful episode of the Couch Sports Talk podcast. I'm Goozy Boy here with Philanthropist and my boy Young E. And today we're going to be talking about our sports opinions that we get the same way that you do, sitting on the fucking couch, watching it, fucking intoxicated, enjoying, and also sometimes hating your life because of these sports. And going off of that, I'm going to talk about something just right off the jump that's making me hate fucking sports, particularly basketball. It's just been since I've really started paying attention to the Kings, which is really when I met Philanthropist back in middle school. I've become a fan, essentially. And I've been to games before that and sort of liked them. But one thing that did deter me away from paying attention to them so much was just how bad of a franchise they are. And, after getting rid of the Maloofs, I was hopeful. They stayed in Sacramento, and it just seemed like things were heading in the right fucking direction. And then that brings us to today. We suck. Ass. Okay? Lost to the Magic today in not the playoffs, but just one of the 8 regular season games that are in the bubble. And it wasn't just a loss. We lost in embarrassing fashion. They lost by only 16 points, but throughout the game, it was way more than that. And Luke Walton, to me, is a big problem. Vlade, with these draft picks, is a big problem. I'm talking about Marvin Bagley a little bit. Him not being on the court is a problem. We're going to talk about, I'm going to let Philanthropist get into Luke Walton and his schemes. They're a big fucking problem. And I think just in general, the franchise of the Kings is just a huge problem for the NBA. They cannot seem to get it right, even though they're picking consistently within, I wouldn't even say top 10, like top 7, and they still can't get shit right, man. I am furious after today. I intentionally didn't watch it because I had a feeling something like this would happen and I didn't want to have to deal with it. But here I am. Anyways, fucking mad. About to fucking drink myself to fucking death. You see this, what you do to me? Vlade, Luke Walton, Buddy Hield, Marvin Bagley. I'm getting fucking pissed. I'm going to let you go, Philanthropist. Tell me what the fuck is making you mad about the Sacramento Kings.
Listen, man.
That picture behind you,
man.
That's how I feel. That's how I feel right now.
I'm feeling like Mike Bibby in Game 6 of the 2002 Western Conference Finals. It's rough. It's rough being a Kings fan. Really, we're like the Cleveland Browns of basketball in terms of being a consistently poorly ran franchise. Time and time again, even through ownership changes, we maintain somewhat of a discombobulated front office or an ownership and management situation consistently. I'm really drained at this point. I've realized that, my whole entire life of fanhood with the Kings is based off of 4 years of success out of a 35-year team history that happened when I was 3 to 7 years old. And I've been subjected to misery, heartbreak, and I just cannot stop loving this team for some reason. But, that's the common bond between all Kings fans, is that we just love this team in spite of all the stupidity and all of the
we love the
basketball.
City. That's what it is.
It's a bond between the city and the team, and God knows it has nothing to do with fucking good basketball. I'll tell you that much. As far as Luke Walton goes, he's not a good basketball coach. He needs to go. His schemes are suited for a team that wants to slow the ball down, run half-court sets, and play defense. It just so happens that our personnel are built for a fast-paced, run-the-court, quick 7 seconds or less type system. I don't know what in the world happened last year with Dave Yeager in the front office to make them pass up on him and fire him. We clearly had much more room for improvement, but we went 39 and 43, had a very quick start. We're in the playoff race late into the season. We were playing energized. He seemed to have maximized the talent of De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield. Even Marvin Bagley, when he was on the court, was looking very good. This year, with Luke Walton, really we've looked completely uninspired and dejected, other than a few good stretches where we happen to catch an easy part of the schedule and string together some wins. Really, I'm not saying that Luke Walton's style of basketball can't work. I just don't think it can work here. I think Vlade, he's done enough good things to stave off being fired, but overall, the total package, he's going to be remembered for his colossal mistakes. At this point, not picking on Luka is going to go down as one of the worst draft picks in history. And that's no disrespect to Marvin Bagley. I think he has a future in the NBA. I think he has a lot of potential, but he is likely never going to be 75% of what Luka Doncic will end up being. And even past that, anybody else in that top five, we're talking Jaren Jackson, Trae Young, anybody other than Marvin Bagley was the pick to make. 8-2. He went number one, but yeah, even if we somehow ended up with him, if Luka went number one as he should have, it's just, I think if the Kings weren't picking number two, I think Marvin Bagley probably would have gone seventh in that draft. I really do. And that's no disrespect to him at all. It was a good draft. I don't really know where we're going from here. I don't know if Vivek, our owner, is looking at overhauling the front office, but what I can say is that for the 15th year in a row, I'm tuned out for the rest of the season. At this point, I hope we lose as many games as possible to improve our lottery odds, which is about the same as I do every year late in the season.
We'll never get that first pick either.
No, we won't. And if we do, it's going to be in a bad draft like it is this year. So hang in there, Kings fans. Law of averages. Eventually, we're going to have to get good just off of dumb, stupid luck. It happens to everybody at some point. And at this point, we're talking about one of the longest playoff droughts in sports history. So hang in there. I hope better times are coming. And in the meantime, just have a little alcohol when you watch the games because nothing else is really going to make it better.
Young E, would you like to comment on the Kings?
I mean, it says a lot to me that I've really spent most of this time where we've been without sports, not really too excited for basketball to come back. And it has nothing to do with, I don't really watch much of basketball outside of the Kings, and I'm really just here for the Kings. And I knew coming back into it, it was just going to be another disappointment. So right now, just living through disappointment. Gonna let it be what it is. I've stopped watching the games. Hope they get a good lottery pick. Same goes for the Diamondbacks. Been hurt by that, but absolutely fucking awful. I hope they go get the first pick in the draft. They're just terrible. Absolutely terrible. By far look like the worst team in the league right now. So as far as it's going for me, I hope the Kings do a full rebuild. I hope they get Vlade out of there. I hope they get Luke out of there. I don't know what the fuck they were doing getting rid of Dave Yeager. I think the scheme he was running fit a lot better for the team, and we could tell that coming out the gates this year that Walton's scheme was just not going to fit and mesh with the Kings players. I think the players are not made for that scheme. And, just the other night, I watched the opening night game, which they also lost, and I probably shouldn't have watched. But I saw De'Aaron and Buddy and everybody trying to run the court, and then I'd see Luke be like, slow it down, and I'm just like, when they're running the court, they're getting fast break points and scoring and shooting at a higher percentage, but then they slow it down, and it turns into one of the 50 turnovers they make throughout the game. I think they had 32 that night. It was really fucking bad. But, it is what it is. The Kings are never going to get better. I don't have much hope for them going forward. I think I need to find a new basketball team.
I got to say, too, man, I fed into this as well, but leading into the bubble starting up, there was a lot of talk about, hey, why isn't anybody mentioning the Kings? They would run a poll, and it'd be like, who's going to grab the 8 seed in the West? and it would have the
Yeah.
Trailblazers, the Pelicans, and the Spurs. And be like, what the hell? Why didn't you include the Kings? I'm not trying to hear it, man. Look, don't talk about you're not getting attention. Then you come in, you lose 2 games in a row, and you get blown out by 40 points. All right,
We want
that's
all the
why no one's
smoke.
talking about us.
We want
To
all the
be fair,
smoke.
Yeah,
To be fair, De'Aaron went out and actually played. Like he's going out there trying to play and win.
No,
I
he
don't
sure,
feel
is.
like I
as
see
he
that from
as he
anybody else
should. Yeah, as he should.
because he was offended by all that shit, and he really said he was going to come out and play, and he has. So I don't
Buddy
know.
Hield also did a lot of talking, and he's not been playing that well.
Buddy Hield
Yeah.
played awful in the opening game. He was like
He's not being
he was like
utilized correctly by Walton.
He was still 2 for 15 and just kept fucking hucking up shots and not
Hey,
passing.
that's okay though. That's his role. You know, you don't want your shooters to stop shooting, even if they're having a bad night. That's when it really gets bad.
It was just, to me, there was just a couple, like 3 possessions where he just pulled up a contested shot when
Yeah.
he had somebody wide open in the paint, whether it was Harrison Barnes or Harry
Right.
Giles or whoever. It was just like, I get shoot until you can't shoot anymore, but at the same time, like if you got an open teammate
It's
and
a poor
you're
performance. Yeah. don't get me
you're
wrong.
1 for 13, it's time to pass the ball.
Well, that brings up a whole nother conversation about how Luke Walton has single-handedly stopped Buddy Hield's development and completely misutilized him for the entire year. But that's a whole nother 10-minute conversation. So we'll corner that one for the off season.
I will say, maybe the Marvin Bagley hate is a little too premature. It is his only his second year. I think we should probably give him another chance, another year. But if he
he's
can't
looked
stay
really
healthy,
good while he plays. When he's on the
Yes.
court, he looks good.
so maybe he can salvage something, and there is hope there. But other than that, there's no other any other hope in that team besides maybe Fox. And I'm so used to this shit, like with the Dolphins, and it just hurts. Like how I can like both teams coast to coast, completely random, and yet they're on the same exact paths. And it's just really hard to see, especially like on a local level, because you see how much love that they get here in the city, and it's just really sad that they can't get it together after all these years. And I don't even know what they would do moving forward, but if I was, the GM, I see like too often with the Kings too is either they, one, let players go too early, or two, they hold on to them for too long. And I would just say if we're gonna go a complete rebuild, just go ahead and trade Buddy right away. Just while he's got some value to him. Don't let the whatever, if you're gonna keep Luke Walton next season or whatever coach you're gonna bring in, don't allow him to lose value because they're messing up again. I mean, that's how I feel about the future of the Kings. I really don't see next season being all that successful at all. So maybe trade Buddy, and then just really just be patient with Bagley. Maybe don't even let him play the first couple of weeks. Just make sure he's healthy, get him in. I would continue to develop Bogey and Fox. And really from there, I don't even know, man. Just fucking tank. Might as well. I don't even know what the draft's going to look like next year, but I don't even know what else to say. Like, Phil, what do you even think that they should do this offseason to improve? Or should they just blow it all up and just try to tank?
If we're talking from the very top, fire Vlade, fire the head coach, do an extensive search for new talent. Look, I love Vlade. His jersey's in the rafters. He's a Kings legend. Not a good GM so far. So I would say overhaul the front office, overhaul the coaching staff, bring in a GM before you bring in a coach. So that way there's no, discombobulation there about power. And that's the easy part. I mean, the hard part is finding good talent. You got to think if there's a X's and O's guy who's highly touted, he's most likely getting courted by bigger franchises than us that can offer him more money and that could offer him more prestige. So really, you need to find talent at the GM position. With the Kings, you got to think you're not getting free agents. You need to build through the draft. So my number one priority would be to have the best scouting department in the league, or one of them. You cannot miss in the draft if you're a mid-market team like Sacramento. So we need to have a good scouting department. We need to stop missing in the draft because it's killing us. It really is. And then
Literally.
beyond that, no, it is. And beyond that, I think we actually have a good core of talent right now. That's the one thing we do have going for us. So we have Buddy Hield locked up. Bogey is a free agent, so we'll see what happens with him. I would say try to maximize your assets. Fox is untouchable. Bagley, because of his injury history, he's probably super undervalued right now. So I would say hold on to him. And then Buddy and Bogey, I'd say you shop them, see how many picks you can get, see if you can get anything good for them. Then if not, just hold and see what the next regime can do.
Would you try to maybe trade Harrison Barnes as well?
That's a tough one. I don't know how much value Harrison Barnes would have at this point. He might be worth more to us just as like a perennial starter. And then eventually he'll be a big expiring contract, which is very valuable because it gives you that cap space.
Yeah.
Really just depends where you're at in the standings. If you're obviously making a push for the playoffs or you're a contender, you don't want someone with that big of a contract swallowing that up because you might want to have that free for a big free agent push. But if you're rebuilding, that's money well spent. He's a great veteran, helps the young guys. He's not a star, but he'll give you 15 points per game and solid defense every night. So for 24 million or whatever he's making, you can swallow that as a rebuilding team.
Pause.
My bad.
I was seeing people on Twitter just saying, man, all the Kings really got to do is just auto draft and they'd probably do better.
Facts. Facts. That's no lies detected.
Like sometimes just look at the mock draft. Just look at it. Just one time. That's all you
Right?
got to do.
Yeah.
And
But not
I see,
always.
yeah, not always, but and then I see a lot of people too saying, well, the Kings, like Kings fans especially, right? They don't want to feel too bad about the Luka pick. And they're like, well, the Hawks too should feel that way. And it's like, man, at least they got Trae Young.
Trae Young's an all-star. So
Yeah.
that's your vindication right there.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. I don't even know. I like you said, man. I'm kind of just done. I'm done with it. Just
Same
wait,
here.
I guess.
Law of averages. We'll be good eventually, even if it's by stupid random luck. It has to happen.
And I feel like too they were kind of on the right path with maybe bringing in Levine. I think Levine and Fox would have been nice together, but
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know.
Hey, well, we signed him, but he was restricted, so
Yeah,
we did
exactly.
everything we could.
Yeah. Do you see any free agents this offseason that could possibly maybe want to come to the Kings, or the Kings want to just overpay to bring him in?
Would you want to go play for Luke Walton right now?
Is there, if he gets fired, is there any coaches that could potentially come in and do well that are going to be free after the season?
Not that I know of. No, I don't. I don't really keep that on my radar. But there's always talent out there. You just gotta have a good scouting department. Like I said, you gotta have a good, basketball department that could analyze that. And we're also going to be capped out because we have Barnes. We just re-signed Buddy. Bogey's up for extension, and then Fox and Bagley are coming up too in the next 1 or 2 years. So if I were the Kings, I'd actually be conservative with that. I wouldn't really push for any free agents right now.
Okay. And man, I was really looking forward to coming on here and talking about how well De'Aaron was playing, and like I loved his aggressiveness. Like some plays he reminded me of Derrick Rose with the way he was just taking it from
He's developing very well. Yeah.
sideline to sideline. Just man, he's so fast. He has to be top 3 in the league at this speed. So it's very disappointing, but maybe this can push him to be better in the future. I don't know. But I just don't want him to have to carry the team moving forward, because
Right.
He could do it, but of course you never want that to happen. So, and I don't know if he shoots well enough right now to carry the team like a team all by himself. He's going to need talent around him, especially
Yeah.
shooters.
He's getting better though. I think we have one star, and that's usually the hardest thing to do is to get your first star. So
Yeah,
we'll see what we can do from here. But
I'll never forget too, man. I really thought the star was going to be Tyreek Evans.
oh, we all did. He was
Yeah.
balling his rookie year.
He was having like damn near a LeBron James rookie season. Like that shit was really crazy.
hmm Yep, we
So
passed on
unfortunate.
Steph Curry. That, by the way, in that draft.
At the time,
And
it wasn't a
Giannis.
bad pick.
And Giannis, and Dame Lillard, and Kawhi,
Yeah.
and Klay Thompson. The
And
list
nobody
is much
knew
longer than
about
that.
Giannis though. That was a good catch by the Bucks. Nobody knew about Giannis.
That is true, but Jeff Petrie actually had him in the top 2 on the big board that year. If you remember, that's the year we got McLemore, right? McLemore was
Yeah,
being touted as like a top 5 pick.
yeah.
He was number 1, apparently, evidently left on the draft board that night when we had the 7th pick. Giannis was number 2 because Jeff Petrie, for some reason, discovered Giannis or was high on him. Yeah,
That's so
I'd be happier if
unfortunate.
I didn't know that, but there you go. Just another tidbit.
um, I don't really want to talk about the Kings anymore. I just want
Yeah,
to let
come
them
on.
know that
Let's get out of here.
as people in Sacramento, as Sacramento Kings fans, we're tired of the shit. Figure it out. We got. I mean, every owner in the NBA has got billions of dollars, man. Open up that fucking wallet, like Phil said, man. Get the scouting department fixed up. Get some good coaches in there, and just create a better culture. And if you're gonna blow it up, man, don't fire just the coach or the GM. Do both, and then set up a team where there's actually cohesion, there's actual communication, there's actual chemistry. But I can't even trust that to happen. So we're just gonna move on.
Put Ethan in, man. Ethan's mid range is money. I'm telling you.
Let's go.
I got you.
All right, and that's gonna lead us into our deep dive for today, and that's heading us up north, and specifically the NFC North, where we have the Lions, the Bears, the Vikings, and the Packers. I would say going into last season, this was definitely going to be one of the best divisions in football. The Bears kind of dropped the ball a little bit, but if they can figure it out, this still will be a very tough division. We've seen success in the playoffs from the Vikings and no playoff success, but still a very good team in the Packers because they have one bad man, Aaron Rodgers. But let's go ahead and start talking about the team that finished last in the division last season, and that is the Detroit Lions. Um, they still have Matt Patricia for some reason. I wouldn't have him still there, but I kind of understand just from like being a Dolphins fan, switching coaches so much really does hurt your team. It doesn't even matter if the coach is good. Like just continuing to do that shit, like it just doesn't. Even if your team is good, is what I meant to say, not your coach. If your team is good, it doesn't even matter because you just keep messing up the cohesion of the organization. So I can kind of understand that, but getting rid of Darius Slay to me and then just replacing him with Jeff Okuda doesn't really get the team anywhere improvement wise. They're just kind of still the same team to me. And I don't know if you guys seen, but Stafford came up positive for COVID and was put on that list. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. So maybe he can come back in 2 weeks, but that still might hurt his reps. And I mean, I know they're not going to have preseason anyways, but I don't know how it's going to hurt them. And I'm just not. I don't know why anybody would be high on the Lions. They're a terrible team, terrible organization most seasons. Stafford to me is criminally underrated sometimes, and they just never have a good team around them. And when they are doing good, it's because they had Megatron. And when you have a guy like Stafford throwing bombs to Megatron, how can it not work? But that dude, Stafford's always banged up. They usually never have a running game, even though I know the last couple seasons they have improved that. I'm just not real high on him. I'm going to go ahead and give this to Young E first because I know he's been doing his research and he didn't get to really talk in the last segment that much. So what is your take on the Lions, Young E?
I mean, I think for them it comes down to if Matt Stafford is healthy and plays a full season or not. I think if he can stay healthy, play a full season, I don't think they're that bad of a team. Kerryon Johnson out of the backfield, he's good, and then they went out and got DeAndre Swift in the draft. I was a little bit iffy on DeAndre Swift. I didn't think he was the best back in the draft, as many people did, but we'll see how that works out. They got a two-headed backfield now, and then they have good receiving core, really good receiving core with Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones Jr. I love Kenny Golladay. I think in the next 3 years, he's going to be a top receiver in the league. Once we start seeing Julio and DeAndre Hopkins start to slide a little bit with their age. I think we're definitely going to see somebody like Kenny Golladay come out and, be a top receiver in the league. And then I know they got Hawkinson last year, and he's a really good tight end. So
Yeah, I like him a lot.
I think they're making the right moves. It just comes down to Stafford being healthy. They made some really good moves on defense this year too. I think Patricia, it's hard to judge him because the 2 seasons that he's been there, Stafford's been hurt and they've been really ass, and they just can't figure out the backup quarterback position. Like I've just seen, they just have the most random people in there. They just need to bring Colin Kaepernick in and call it good. But we know that's probably not going to happen. But on defense this year, they got Okuda, obviously. They brought in Jamie Collins to play on the edge, which I like that. We all know what he can do, longtime Patriot.
Mhm.
And then they got a sleeper pick that I really liked. I wanted the Ravens to get him. They didn't. I'm going to botch his name. Julian Okwara from Notre Dame. He's an outside linebacker. He was projected high second-round pick. I was really pulling for the Ravens to get him. They passed on him, and he slid to the Lions in the 3rd round. Dude's a monster. If he's healthy, he will turn out to be one of the best players from last year's draft. He's just a beast on the field. So I think they can improve. I think we could see a 9-7 out of them if Stafford plays 16 games. Anything less than him playing 16 games is going to significantly fuck up their record.
Do you see him playing 16?
No.
That offensive line is horrendous.
I don't ever see Stafford playing 16. Offensive line isn't good. The offensive scheme isn't good. I don't know who their offensive coordinator is, but he's not good. So, I mean,
shots fired.
Other than that, their coaching staff is holding them back. I don't think Matt Patricia is a terrible coach, but he can't run the offense, and they don't have somebody to run the offense. So I don't know. They're in a tough place. And I could see Stafford getting hurt in week 2 and being out for 10 games, and by game 10 they are 2-8, and then they come out and they put up a 3-13 season.
Well, shit. All right. I respect it. What about you, Philanthropist?
I'm kind of with Ethan. I don't think the roster is that terrible outside of the offensive line. I think the coaching is really bad. A hole I see with them consistently is at running back. I know Kerryon Johnson had a good year last year, and then they got DeAndre Swift in the draft. But usually they don't really have a strong running game, so we'll see how that, boils down. But I feel like the Lions are just the CEOs of always having a really good receiving core, Like they always have 2 or 3 dudes who are money in fantasy. So watch out for that. But yeah, I agree. I think Matt Patricia sucks. I think the unnamed offensive coordinator sucks. And I don't know. I'm getting like a strong 6-10 feeling from this team. Maybe 5-11. Not horrible, but definitely not good.
I would have said maybe 6-10, but now that Stafford is now on the COVID list, I'm gonna say 4-12. It's just every year I see this dude literally almost die on the football field, and one reason why the running game is always bad is because their offensive line is terrible, and then that's what gets Stafford hurt. And it's just amazing to me how they continuously don't draft first-round offensive linemen. Like, you're right, they got Jeff Okuda this year, and the last year they got a tight end. And that's cool. Like, you need weapons and you need corner play after losing Darius Slay. But at the same time, man, you have a franchise quarterback where you live or die by him. And it would be probably a little important if you protected him. So Lions are one of those franchises that are kind of like the Kings and the Dolphins, right? They just continuously get it wrong year after year.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah. I have a name for the offensive coordinator. Darrell Bevel. He was the offensive coordinator for the Seahawks from 2011 to 2017. And he was the offensive coordinator for the Lions last year. But
Oh,
No, all hate to him. He's trash. So
not a good look for the guy, Darren.
And you know what? I don't like Matt Patricia in the fucking press conferences. I just don't like the way he be up there looking. I think that just ruins the team too. He just don't set the right vibe. You know what I mean? If you're going to be the coach, like Adam Gase, right? When he goes up in the press conference, he's not setting a good vibe. Yeah. So,
I got
like
you.
Bill Belichick, when he's sitting on that bench with the sandwich in his mouth, that's the vibe that you want from your coach, bro. You know what I mean? So we'll see. Matt Patricia's looking more and more like one of the coaches that are fallen way down from the Belichick tree. He'll probably be on the Patriots coaching staff again next season. And I have nothing more to say about the Lions, but I think they're going to finish last in the division once again.
I think they will too. But I will say, I don't think, aside from one player, I don't think they have the worst roster in the division. Aside from one player.
You're going to say
Cap.
the Packers? Huh?
No,
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and go with the next team we're going to talk about.
Okay.
If you take Khalil Mack away from the Bears, they are by far the worst roster in the division.
Are you kidding me? A team with 8 tight ends?
Exactly that.
Y'all both capping. I'm sorry, Chicago fans. We'll get to it.
I'm not agreeing with this.
Outside of Khalil Mack, who do you think is good on their team?
I can list them off if you'd like.
Go for it.
All right, let me pull them up real quick.
Allen Robinson is good, I guess. Sometimes.
I was
Are we just forgetting that they have one of the best defenses in football? Is that
They
just
have a
a
great
thing of the
defense.
past? Akeem
I
Hicks,
was
Danny Trevathan, Raquan Smith, Robert
Danny
Quinn,
Trevathan is
Kyle
that good.
Fuller, Eddie
Robert
Jackson.
Quinn was just signed.
I love Raekwon Smith. He's really good.
All
He's
right.
going to be
They have a
top
good,
five
solid
linebacker.
young defense, but I still think take Khalil Mack out of there. I think they have a worse lineup than the Lions do. Their
Okay.
offense is atrocious.
That's because of one person.
Let me go ahead and
They have
let
no
me go ahead
receivers.
and just introduce the Chicago Bears. Okay, we're talking about a team that was really looked like one of the up and coming teams, potentially with a superstar quarterback and one Mitch Trubisky.
Superstar.
But they had a very, very disappointing season in comparison to the one that they had 2 years ago. And in this season, Mitch Trubisky just declined after every game. After every game, he declined, and because of that, they have brought in Big Dick Nick Foles. So I'm really
He was good
interested.
right?
I'm interested to see who's going to win this quarterback competition here. I will say one thing before I pass it off. Mitch Trubisky is not one of my favorite quarterbacks in the league. Definitely makes me upset on literally almost every play that he makes. But I will also say, to be fair, that his offensive line is ass. And if you I watched some clips before this, just to kind of give my research and a fair assessment to Mitch Trubisky, because as these two know, I go hard in the paint on this dude. But after carefully dissecting his film, I've come to the conclusion that he is ass, but with potential. Okay, he has terrible footwork. And he has no confidence. And yes, that can be put on him, but at the same time, I feel like Matt Nagy kind of just gave up on him midseason. That offensive line, if you see as the season went on, he just lost confidence in them. You know, he started out the season, first couple of games, standing in the pocket. I wouldn't say like very well or with good footwork, but you know, he was standing there sometimes, and I just feel like they're also not putting to his strengths. They're not putting the game plan out to fit his strengths, which is, in my opinion, he looks more like a running quarterback sometimes than he is a throwing quarterback. Like he does a very good job running. I think a lot of people don't talk about that.
Yeah,
so I'm going to go ahead and pass this off to you guys. What do you think about the Bears, and where do you see any improvement from them this upcoming season?
All right. I already listed off the defense, so I won't reiterate that. They have a good defense. That's fine. The offense, the personnel, not the best. I'll give you that. Allen Robinson's a good receiver, but other than that, you were talking Cordarrelle Patterson, Ted Ginn.
Allen Robinson Robinson is very good. When I was watching Mitch
okay.
Trubisky
Yeah, he is.
play highlights, it
He's
was
good.
essentially Allen Robinson highlight video.
He's a
Like,
number 2 receiver, though. He's a number
Yeah.
2 receiver.
he's good.
Definitely.
He's good, bro. Okay, I'm
Yeah,
going.
he's good. He's good.
But
But
he's a number
anyway,
2 receiver.
the running game is a little bit better. I mean, they got David Montgomery, Tariq Cohen's a good triple threat. The problem is Mitch Trubisky, and he sucks. He's bad. We're talking. Look, we've already talked about Josh Allen, but we're really talking about diet Josh Allen. You know, he really needs to be running the football. He cannot throw. There's a video montage of him not throwing to his left. Have you seen that? He does not throw to the left side of the field. I don't know if he's scared, if he had a bad accident turning left when he was a child or something. He does not
he
throw
has
to the
no
left side of the
receiver on
field.
the left side of the field. Who is it?
Okay.
Taylor Gabriel? Come on now, dude.
He's wet.
No, he's not. And they cut him this offseason. He's not even there anymore.
Kyle Shanahan made him look
Still
like a
wet.
star in Atlanta. That's all I know.
Uh,
Anyway,
a
look,
star
Trubisky-
with 400 yards. Come on now.
but 3 touchdowns though. Anyway, look, Mitch Trubisky, he's not good. He look, bless his soul, he cannot play the game of football at the quarterback position. Nick Foles, on the other hand, you know, one of the best backup quarterbacks of all time, potential starting quarterback. I think if he wins the job and he has any modicum of consistency, I think the Bears are going to improve rapidly. I think they might be 10-6. They might challenge for a wild card spot, especially now with
Wow.
7 seeds.
I'm very surprised by your 10-6 prediction. I thought you were going to come in with a 4-12.
Well, you know, everybody is harping on the coach, Matt Nagy. They think that all of a sudden he's trash. He was the coach of the year 2 years ago, or
Yeah.
like he was a candidate. You know, like let's stop it on the hate train a little bit. They had a bad year because their quarterback is ass, like literal ass. Okay, let's let them get another quarterback in there that's not Chase Daniels, and let's see what happens. All right, they went 8-8 with Trubisky, so let's see what they do when they have consistent quarterback play.
All right, Young, you tell him about Trubisky and what you like about him.
So, here's what I'm gonna say. This is probably one of my favorite off-season stories is gonna be this QB battle. I'm so excited to see who comes out on top. Ever since he's got drafted, I've had love for Trubisky, just for no reason at all whatsoever.
That's accurate.
He looks good. He looks good in that orange Bears uniform, and that orange Bears uniform with the number 10 with the Trubisky on the back. It looks clean. I gotta mess with it, and just for that, I've supported him since he's been drafted. And a lot of people hated him out the draft. I wasn't thrilled about number 1, especially with the quarterbacks that they had in that draft. And let's say he came from North Carolina, bro. You're not playing very good competition out there, so I don't know what they were doing with picking him number 1, but I support Mitch Trubisky. And if he comes out on top, I think he has potential. As Jordan said, he has not been great, but he has potential. But they got to build that offense around him a little bit. I don't think David Montgomery was good last year. I don't know if he's a good top 15 number 1 back. Tariq Cohen is okay, but very inconsistent. And he's also 5'7", so it kind of holds him back. All respect to him, he's a good player, but it does hold him back. Offensive line, absolute dog shit, just super trash. They had Trey Burton for a while at tight end. He was good. They bring in Jimmy Graham this year, and I know they drafted a tight end in the 3rd round. But I don't know. I don't know about this team. I could see 6-10 big time. They had probably the worst draft out of all the teams. Like, just absolute garbage.
Do you see them finishing above the Lions?
Depends on if Matthew Stafford plays.
Okay, fair enough.
That's what it
Give me a
comes down
fucking
to.
break.
If Matthew Stafford isn't playing, then the Bears will definitely surpass the Lions.
Hey,
And I think,
hey, Ethan,
weirdly
put a
enough-
case of squirt on it. Put a case of squirt
weirdly
on that
enough,
assertion.
this is a division where I don't think I would be necessarily surprised if any of these 4 teams won or lost the division.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like,
Okay,
if the
I would be
Lions-
surprised if the Lions won.
If Stafford stayed healthy the whole year and the Lions went 10-6 and won the division and it was really competitive and they pushed 3 teams into the playoffs, I could see the Lions coming out on top of the division. Same goes with the Bears. I could see if Nick Foles came out and was good, and not how he looked in the Jags uniform last year, they could be a team that goes 10-6. Or if Trubisky comes out of that with some confidence and the team plays well around him, and he actually steps his shit up, they could go 10-6 as well. I think 10-6 could win that division, and that's why I think it's such an open division. Because I think 10
It's
and
always
6
competitive, yeah.
And who knows what the Vikings are going to look like? I know we're going to talk about them next, but who knows what they're going to look like after all their changes this offseason?
Definitely. I think this might be the right place for Nick Foles. Just the way he carries himself, he just kind of reminds me of he just seems like a good fit in Chicago and kind of what they got going on there. As far as like a city's culture, just the way like Bears players, need to be sometimes. I think Big Dick Nick Foles can really come in and be that player. But I think people still need to give Mitch a shot after reevaluating him. I wouldn't necessarily trust him with my team, but if I have some good players around him, I would give him some time. He's got the potential. I don't know if he's got the mentals to go with it. There's a lot of times where he just makes the wrong read, but that can come down to coaching too. So Matt Nagy maybe just needs to put a little bit more time into it. But if he's just ready to give up on him, then I got no problem with them putting Nick Foles in. I think that was a great pickup, and I don't think they can really go wrong with either one. And I'm just like Young E said, I'm excited to see who comes out on top of this. And they could be, in my opinion, they could be like an 11-5 team, and they can also be like a 6-10, 5-11 team. So we'll see. And that leads us on to our next team. And that is a team that surprised everybody last season and went down to New Orleans. And they won they won in it was overtime, right? And it was on the last play with because it was the last play because it was a touchdown. But Kirk Cousins, he really looked at all of his haters and asked if they liked that. And I tell you what, man, I like that shit a lot. I like Kirk Cousins, and when he's having his highs, man, he's definitely, he plays like a top 10 quarterback, but there's just times, man, where he really lets me down. But I'm excited to see with all of the changes that they've had, if Kirk Cousins can really show that he earned and deserves that contract extension that he did get. I know Young E used to be, and probably still is, a huge fan of Kirk Cousins. I don't know if the love for that has gone down a little bit, but when he was in Washington, Young E swore he was like a top 5 quarterback.
He was pounding the table about
that. So I'm gonna go ahead and just throw it to you, Young E, because I know that you know a little bit more about the Vikings and Kirk Cousins. So what do you think they can improve on what they did last season? And by that I mean, are they able to maybe take the next step and head to an NFC championship?
I think they are in a really good place. They have a fantastic coach. I do want to say these final 3 teams, including the Bears, probably have some of the best coaches in the NFL. Like I would say all 3 of them are top 10, and that's with what's his face from the Packers. That last year was his first year, but
Matt LaFleur,
fantastic coach.
Nope, I don't like more. But go ahead.
Mike Zimmer, really good coach, and I think they euthanized. They
They what?
They brought some youth into that defense. They got Linval Joseph out of there. They got Xavier Rhodes out of there, and we know. I don't know how many Vikings games you guys watched last year, but Xavier Rhodes was getting just toasted the entire year. He was an absolute liability, and it was just his history in a Vikings uniform makes you not able to sit him on the bench. They needed the entire year to sit him on the fucking bench. I watched him lose probably 2 games for them single-handedly. It was just bad. So I'm glad they got him out of there. And then they got rid of Stephon Diggs, which surprised me because I know he wanted out of there a lot after last season. And then towards the end of the year, it kind of seemed like they had figured it out and he was going to stick it through, and they got rid of it with the Bills.
Remember the game against the Saints? He was throwing his helmet and shit because he wasn't getting the ball, even though they were winning the game.
In the final game?
Yeah.
I think that only helps them, though. I do. They bring in Justin Jefferson, who is a similar playmaker. I don't think
Yeah.
he's Stephon Diggs' talent level, but he also isn't bringing the baggage that Stephon Diggs has. And don't get me wrong, I love Stephon Diggs. I just think he needed out of Minnesota. I don't think he was a fit there. He needs to be the number one, and in Minnesota, he was not the clear number one. Adam Thielen is a fucking beast. He is one of my favorite receivers in the NFL. Dude is a monster. Love that guy. So, Stephon Diggs moves on to the Bills. I think he plays a big role there. I could see a 1,600-yard season out of him over there, but I can, if you really want me to say it.
That's not a dig on Stephon Diggs, no pun intended. That's a dig on Josh Allen being able to throw 1,600 yards.
I would just say
I'll save
I could
that.
see half of his yards going to Stephon Diggs. So
That's fair. That's fair.
I just think they've done a good job with this team, and I'm interested to see what they can come out and do. I think they have potential to be a 12-4 top 3 seed in the NFC.
Yeah.
If Kirk can come out and have his good games, and Adam Thielen can stay healthy, and Kyle Rudolph can somewhat contribute, and then you get Justin Jefferson in there.
What about
I
Dalvin?
think they've got a solid team. Honestly, I was not going to talk about Dalvin Cook until hot takes, but I'll come at it a little early because I got a couple hot takes today.
Okay.
But in my opinion, Dalvin Cook is a top 3 running back in the league, and
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I would say he's maybe above Zeke and behind Saquon, but it's all very, very close. Dalvin Cook is a beast, dude.
Derrick Henry.
I'm with Ethan on that. I'm with
I'd
him.
put Derrick Henry top 5, but I don't know if he's one of those elite backs in the league. Derrick Henry's like,
I'm putting him above Zeke.
I wouldn't say he's a one-dimensional back, but he's not going to catch the ball as much as these other guys can. Dalvin Cook can consistently put up, and we're sleeping on Christian McCaffrey too. I might put Christian McCaffrey.
Hey, that's some good running backs.
That's fair. Yeah, there are good running backs out there.
Dalvin Cook can easily put up 2,500 scrimmage yards throughout the year, and I can see him potentially in 2-3 years maybe pushing that record for rush yards and scrimmage yards that AP did, because they're just so good at building that position and doing the right things to build around that, building the offensive line and the offensive scheme to make it fit to where either we're going to run play action and Kirk Cousins is going to complete 76% of his passes, or we're going to hand the ball off and Dalvin Cook is going to get 6 yards a carry.
Okay. I was gonna ask you guys too. Do you see? Obviously, losing a talent like Diggs is gonna hurt your team a little bit. Like you said, the numbers may go down. But I'm also wondering, is it a possibility that this could open up more plays for not just Adam Thielen, of course, but just everybody else? Will it allow Kirk to maybe spread the ball out a little bit more and add more dynamic to their offense?
I definitely think so, and I think it brings less stress to Kirk. I think, all season Kirk has to think, if I don't throw him the ball, he's going to throw a fucking fit after this game. So I got to at least throw him the ball 5-6 times, even if he fucking drops it 4 out of those 5 times. So I think it's going to help them in the long run. I really do. And like I said, no disrespect to Stephon Diggs. He's a fantastic player. I just think he needs to be number one, and in Minnesota, it was not going to happen.
And he's going to get a chance to do that up in Buffalo. So I'm interested to see that. What do you got to say about the Vikings, young Philly?
Yeah, I agree with Ethan. I think the Vikings are a top 5 football team in the league. They have an excellent roster, excellent head coach with Mike Zimmer. And, I really come around on Kirk Cousins, too. I think there's a class of quarterbacks where they're not top 5, they're not elite, but I call them like a minimum viable championship quarterback, where it's like, if you want to win a championship, you have to have a quarterback that's at least this good. It's like an example of that would be Joe Flacco in 2012. Like, he was not a world beater by any means, but he was, if you had any chances of winning a championship, you needed a quarterback that was at least as good as Joe Flacco. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean,
so like 20 years ago, that was Trent Dilfer, and that was a different story. But nowadays,
I don't
it's
know.
guys like Kirk Cousins.
Bro, it wasn't Trent Dilfer. They won that Super Bowl like 39-7. I'm gonna just tell you,
That's true. Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
defense put up 14 points in that game. It
Much more
wasn't Trent
extreme.
Dilfer.
Much more extreme. Yeah. But you
It's
know what I'm
probably
saying,
that's
though.
probably the most extreme case. But
Guy,
yeah,
I would
with
say,
Flacco, like maybe
I,
Jimmy G. You could throw Jimmy G in that
I would
current.
actually, I would say Jimmy G is a step below that. I think Jimmy G needs to progress a little bit more before he's good enough to win a championship. And I
Number
think
43.
number
Number
43, get
43.
out of here with number 43, bro. That shit made me so
The
mad.
43rd best player in the NFL last year. Are you
I
for
think
real right now?
I think if you want to win a championship, you need to have a quarterback that's at least as good as Kirk Cousins, who's probably a top 12 quarterback,
I
maybe
see.
top 10.
If they can stick to their guns, stick to their game plan, which should be running the ball.
Yep.
Maybe when that's not working, find just a way to give the ball to Dalvin Cook with some screens, some swing passes. Make sure the play action is working. Get Thielen down the field. Get Justin Jefferson involved on some slants, some quick screens, and just play good defense. If they can do that, control the ball, control time of possession, I can see this team being, like you said, a 12-4 team. I think Kirk Cousins is getting more comfortable there too. I feel like he's one of those players that just needs to build his confidence, and it's going to take a while. And I see him getting there definitely. I could see like 10-6 to 12-4, very solid team. I would say that they have the highest floor out of all of the teams in the division. Being their floor being 10-6, and I don't know if you guys want to move on to the Packers, but Packers, like, I could see their floor being a
I
lot
don't
lower than that.
I don't want to talk about the Packers. They're just such a
I'm
fucking
not high on the Packers either.
mess of an organization right now. I'm very upset with them.
All right, I guess we could just jump right into that. We have the Green Bay Packers, who, despite sometimes looking not that good last season, especially on the offensive side of the ball, and I guess you could say defensively too, they were really carried, it seems sometimes, by Aaron Rodgers. Despite that 13-3 record, I think we talked about it in the previous weeks. Their margin of winning was very low in comparison to other good teams. So,
Right.
that 13-3 record could have very well been a 10-6, maybe potentially a 9-7 sometimes. And with this division just getting better, I don't know about the Lions improving that much, like I said, but the Bears, they could be a lot better, and the Vikings seem to be just putting it together. They're consistently good. Even when they didn't have Kirk Cousins there, they were still a very solid team.
Right.
And I think this might be potentially the year that they take the step to win the division, because we have the Green Bay Packers, instead of wanting to improve the team now, it looks like they're trying to improve the team in the future, which makes no fucking sense to me why you would go for in the draft when it's one of the deepest wide receiver drafts, and maybe the quarterback that you wanted to replace Aaron Rodgers could have been there in the second round. Now Aaron Rodgers is mad, and they didn't really do much to improve the team, in my opinion. And I don't know. I feel like Aaron Rodgers is either going to go out there and show Matt LaFleur why Aaron Rodgers should be mad in the first place. But I just think Aaron Rodgers is getting tired of having to carry the team, especially with the lack of wide receivers. And, you could say what you want about his wide receivers in the past, but they usually don't play that well as soon as they leave him. So, sometimes I feel like the team just thinks that he's going to be the superhero for them at all times. And I think it's kind of stupid and naive to think that Jordan Love could even touch any level that Aaron Rodgers was on. And, before we seen Mahomes, a lot of people said Aaron Rodgers was probably the greatest talent at quarterback that we've ever seen. Maybe besides Dan Marino comes to mind, right, with his arm talent. But we've never seen anybody like Aaron Rodgers before. And it's just really sad to me and very upsetting. Like, I don't even really want to talk about anything else with the Green Bay Packers, because I think that's where they fall apart, is they made that their franchise player, the greatest player that they probably ever had, besides Reggie White. It's it's just unfathomable to me that they wouldn't want to improve the team after going 13-3, going to the NFC Championship game, one game away from the Super Bowl, and that I would have even been happy if they drafted a defensive player in the first round to improve that awful defense that gave up over 200 yards rushing to the 49ers. So, what do you
say that
guys
again? Say that again, Jordan. I like the sound of that.
Over 200 yards rushing. Fucking Jimmy G didn't even have to dress up that day, and they still would have won.
Threw the ball fucking 7 times.
So, what do you guys? Are you guys in agreement with me about the Packers that this may be a down year, or do you see them potentially going to be a contender in the Super Bowl? What do you think?
I mean, yeah, I totally agree. I don't think they were really that good last year. I think that razor thin margin really just came down to good coaching and good game management by Aaron Rodgers. And that really brings up a bigger issue I see with the team is that really the scheme they're running now, they're obviously very run heavy. And Rodgers has really been almost, I want to say, relegated to the role of a game manager where he's so smart. He's not going to force anything. So he obviously has led the league in throwaways many times just to make the smart play. And that works, but it also doesn't because, I mean, if you put someone like Aaron Rodgers in a scheme where he's just doing game manager stuff, he's going to be the best game manager of all time, because he can make any throw. Mm-hmm. The issue is when you get to a stage where you're outmatched like they were against the 49ers, all of a sudden you have to throw away everything you were doing the entire season and go right back to shotgun snaps the entire game. Let's try and throw our way out of this, where you haven't been doing that as an organization. And to be frank, you don't have the weapons to do that. Devontae Adams is clearly, one of the best receivers in the league. I'd even say top 3. But him by himself is not enough for Aaron Rodgers to work with. And really, it wasn't even that they picked Jordan Love this year. It's that they've never drafted a receiver in the first round the entire time Aaron Rodgers has been there. That's negligence at that point. Give the man some weapons. If you're not going to get it in the draft, get it in free agency, and you don't. So, he's obviously one of the biggest erasers. He erases a lot of mistakes that the front office makes. But, yeah, I mean, no disrespect to Jordan Love. I know there's some people that are high on him, but, Rodgers is 35, 36. There's clearly a blueprint now in today's NFL where quarterbacks can play into their early 40s. So we're talking at least 4 or 5 years left of Rodgers. I think that's plenty of time to not worry about drafting a quarterback yet. So I don't see why they did this. I guess if they just run it back, I don't see why they couldn't go 10-6, 11-5, make a push for the division title. But I could also see them going 8-8 and having a lot of issues. So I guess we'll just see, how it goes with that run first scheme if Aaron Jones can put together another great season. But yeah, I'm not very high on this team this year. I'd say I have the Vikings taking it personally.
It's very hard to be a game manager when your team sucks around you.
You're not wrong.
Like, think about the 2 last really successful game managers. Well, okay, I guess I would say the last 2 teams that I've seen do it really well, and they were both led by Alex Smith. And Alex Smith had great weapons around him both times, whether it was with the Chiefs or the Niners.
But it's a stretch to say they don't have a good team.
I wouldn't go there.
I agree.
I definitely think that's a very,
but I think they're dropping
stretch.
The ball on improving it to being a great team.
Well, they are. So here's what I've seen. I was really disappointed in them this offseason because a lot of free agency talk. We were going to get a second receiver in there. And they signed Devin fucking Funchess. I mean,
out, by the way.
Are we really serious? And then he opts out. Which, no disrespect to him, but I mean, really, you need a solid number 2 receiver, and you're gonna go sign a 3 or 4 guy. And there were so many receivers available. Then we go into the draft, which they have a really solid young core. I don't know how much you guys know about their defense, but they have Kenny Clark. Yeah. Kenny Clark is a stud. Adrian Amos, Kevin King, Jair Alexander make up a top 3 secondary in the league, and Jair Alexander is only going to get better. I think that dude in 2-3 years is going to be the best corner in the league. He's a fucking beast, but they don't really have a solid linebacker group. They could improve beyond those few guys and the pieces, and we did see that in the Niners game last year. So to see them come into the draft, I wasn't necessarily surprised they took a quarterback, but I was surprised that they took a quarterback in the first round. I was surprised that then they proceeded after last year getting so much production from Aaron Jones, who's like 26. He's very young, another piece of their very young, solid core. And then they had a really solid production from Jamal Williams as well. Then they're going to go out and get A.J. Dillon, who is a good running back, don't get me wrong, but why the fuck are you getting another running back in the second round
Great
when
question.
there's plenty of receivers? There was receivers available into the like really high quality receivers into the fourth, fifth, even sixth rounds. Like I know the Ravens got two really high quality receivers at 3 and 6. So I don't really know what they were doing this offseason. They let Jimmy Graham go, which I think was a good move. They did not make any move to bring in anybody to replace him. They brought in Mercedes Lewis, who hasn't been a starting tight end in 3 years, and I'm pretty sure he's like 36. Dude's been playing since I was fucking born, bro. Like, I don't know what they're doing. But again, great coach, a really good young core. They probably have a top, I would say they're probably the second best big three in the league with Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams, and Aaron Rodgers, only behind Mahomes, Kelsey, and Tyreek Hill. But beyond that big three, their offense is very, very weak. And their defense is very top heavy as well. And they don't have depth. I always see them every year. They have an offensive line injury or a defensive injury, and I don't know if it's the organization. Maybe I get spoiled a bit as a Ravens fan. I see a lot of undrafted free agents or fifth, sixth round picks come in, backup roles. They come in for somebody and they're really good, and then they end up filling a starter role for our team or another team later on. But the Packers, they just really don't have it. And you know what I don't even see. We're gonna wait 2 years for Jordan Love to play probably, and then who knows how much that hurts his development. And then AJ Dillon is going to be a third string running back for 2 years, so that hurts his development. It's just I don't know where they're going. I don't know what the plan was after the draft to develop the players that they drafted.
I don't know what the plan was in general when they hire Matt LaFleur. Did they say to him, "Hey, after this season, we're going to allow you to rebuild the team that you want to, build it like," and then they just went 13-3 by accident, and then they just went ahead and went with the plan anyways? Like I honestly don't know what they're doing. If you're a franchise and you're one game away from the Super Bowl, you would think that you would do anything, especially when you have a Hall of Fame quarterback, not just a Hall of Fame quarterback, but one of the best quarterbacks we've ever seen underneath center. You would think that you would try just a little bit of something, man. At least make a small trade. Do something.
And not to mention they had cap space and good picks. They had, all the pieces to go out and improve their team, and there were players available. It's not like it was a, low wide receiver draft or a low wide receiver free agent class.
Emmanuel Sanders. Yeah.
I mean that, and they could have gotten a cheap linebacker or even a higher end linebacker. Like I know when they picked, there was a few good inside linebackers still available in the draft. So I just don't really know what they were doing.
And not to mention they traded up to get Jordan Love. It wasn't like he just fell to them. They went up and got him. Mm-hmm. So it really, I don't even know what they're doing, and it just makes me sad for Aaron Rodgers.
Yep. And I know at that point when they traded it, Patrick Queen was still available, who's a stud, and the guy the Chargers got too, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he's really good too. So
yeah, it was a big surprise.
Just a mess.
What do you guys see as their floor and their ceiling?
I actually think they have a high floor, to be honest with you. Like, despite all we've said, still a pretty decent roster. Mm-hmm. I would say floor 9-7. Ceiling, I mean, I don't see why they can't go 12-4 in like a best case scenario. Like essentially if they just run it back, do everything the same way they did, get consistent. I mean, to be honest with you, Aaron Rodgers had a down year last year. I mean, down year in quotation marks, because I think he had something like high 20s touchdowns and not more than 8 interceptions. So it's a down year for his standards. But if he comes out slinging, if they open up the playbook a little bit more, I don't see why they can't have a great year. My bigger concern would just be with their offense and whether or not guys like Marquise Valdez-Scantling can actually step up and be a number two. And then, say what you want about Jimmy Graham not being who he used to be, but he was somebody, and he could get reliable production from him. So I have very big questions about their offense, to say the least.
He's not there anymore, right?
Nope. He moved on to the Bears.
Yes.
Yep.
With their 10 other tight ends.
And replaced him with Mercedes Lewis.
Yep.
Matt Nagy loves tight ends.
Youngie, what do you think? The ceiling and floor.
I would say their floor is probably 8-8. I think it's hard, with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback to do anything less than 8-8. And then, you add in that defense and those centerpieces that they have. I can't see him going any less than that. Honestly, I don't really see him going less than 10-6. But worst case scenario, they could go 8-8 if everything just fell apart. Ceiling, I would say 13-3 again. I think they could probably do the same thing they did last year. Maybe they hear all the bitching and complaining, and before we hit the trade deadline, they bring in a receiver and, do what they needed to do for 3 fucking years. But who knows? And, we'll see. There was a lot of just questionable moves this offseason, and, we'll see how it pans out for them.
Can I tell you boys who they really need?
Who?
I'm going to show you.
Dwayne Allen. No,
Greg Jennings.
They bring Dwayne Allen in at tight end, bro. You're getting 1,000.
Yeah, hell yeah.
That's a good call. They do need Dwayne Allen.
I was really looking forward to seeing Aaron Rodgers in this offense his second year, being able to grow upon, just being, it's the first year. It's going to take some adjustment. So I was really flabbergasted that they went in the direction that they went in. And I was really hoping that, they would have looked at the loss last, in the playoffs and went like, hey, maybe we can get someone like you said, Patrick Queen in the first round. And then, I don't know, make a trade for someone who was available. Like, I would have liked to see them just maybe throw 2 first-rounders. If you're going to use the first round on Jordan Love, use 2 first-rounders and we'll get Odell. The Browns would have definitely taken that deal. Make a risk play like that. The Packers never fucking do it, and I think Aaron Rodgers would have really appreciated if you did that. You have the dude for another 3 to 4 years. You gave him this huge contract extension, and then you're going to do that shit to him. It makes no sense. And I understand that the Packers organization has like this big head about, oh, we can bring in any quarterback and do well because of what they did with Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre. But they got to understand that both of them in their own ways are generational talents, and it's very hard to do that. They got very lucky.
That's once in a lifetime luck to go back to back with guys like that. I don't give them any credit for developing them.
Yeah. And, Jordan Love, he does seem to have a lot of potential, but like I said, to think that he'll end up being something like Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers, it's just very wishful thinking, especially when you're already giving up assets to go get him. It just doesn't make sense to me, but we'll see. Do you guys have any more that you want to say about any of the NFC North teams? Or well, actually, who do you think, the Packers or the Vikings, are going to win? It kind of seems like you guys are heading towards both of those. Who do you see?
Personally, I have the Vikings. I think this is going to be their year.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the Vikings' year. I think it'll come down to probably the last game of the season, but I think the Vikings will win the division.
I say Vikings as well.
My one other take I have for this division, though, I think this is going to be one of the divisions that has 3 playoff teams. Personally,
okay.
This or the NFC West. Just depends.
Yeah, I think those 2 teams are going to be, or those 2 divisions are going to compete for 3 teams. And then my fantasy player out this division.
Okay.
I already talked about him earlier, Kenny Golladay. Beast. Just see what he did last year with fucking Jeff Driscoll playing quarterback. Who knows what he can do with somebody.
I hope you know.
Wrong.
I'm listening every week to your picks. I hope you know that.
Good.
Draft an Ethan only team.
Yeah, there we go.
Hey,
all Ethan first team.
The highlight of my fantasy career was stealing Lamar Jackson from Ethan last year.
Let's
I
It
will
go.
was the only
never
league.
forget that.
It was
Yep.
the only league, and I dominated my other leagues because I got him in like the 7th, 8th round in my other leagues, and then
Yep. I had to do it to him.
All right, I know Young E has to get off in about 15 minutes, so we were gonna go ahead and do something else, but I think we should just jump right into the hot takes, and maybe our show for Friday we can go ahead and do what we were gonna do. I won't say it, won't spoil it, because I just want it to be a surprise to our many fans. I think they deserve a surprise every once in a while. So let's just jump right into hot takes. What hot takes did you guys have coming into this, or what hot takes have you developed as the show has gone on? Go ahead. Let's go Philly first.
Shit, I wasn't ready for my hot take.
Okay, let's go Young E first.
all right, I got a couple hot takes. I got a basketball one. I know I talked about Dalvin Cook a little bit earlier, but I'll come back to football last. But one thing I wanted to talk about, I've spent the last month and a half really excited for hockey to come back because it's the only team other than the Baltimore Ravens that I'm a fan of that I actually have fucking hope in. And the Coyotes came out. They looked fantastic in the early going today. So I'm going to come out and say my first hot take. I know we're not that into hockey, but it's a super hot take for me to say that the Coyotes will make the Western Conference Finals. They are currently the 11 seed. So we're going to see what they do, but they came out. They looked good this morning. They were up 3-0 after the first period. So we'll see if they can hold that up. But, yeah, I'll do that. And then for basketball, I'm going to just skip to this. But from what I've seen so far, the two teams that I'm really looking out for as my sleepers for playoffs, and one of them I have in the finals, but it's not the first one. The Thunder, I saw them come out the first game. They looked really good. So I think, they can compete and maybe upset a team in the playoffs. We'll see.
Definitely.
And then my team out the East, and I've been sticking to this and seeing them come out
I like
the
it.
other
I like
night.
it.
I'm
Yes.
really sticking to it. The Miami Heat, man.
Yes.
Man,
Yes.
get them in the finals this year. I see they might lose it, but I see them in the finals this year. That's my hot take. Miami Heat.
I love it.
Okay.
I love it so much.
I'll let Phil think about his a little bit longer. I'll go ahead and just give my hot take. It is also basketball related. I do not think a number one seed will win the finals this year. I think there will be an upset, like Young E was saying, somewhere. And after just watching, like he was saying, the Heat, after watching the Raptors, you never know about the Sixers. They're so inconsistent, but you never know they could come out firing. The Clippers have looked decent. I'm kind of iffy on them, but I think there could be a team out the West that puts just trouble and makes the journey to the finals for whatever West team it is. Even if it is the one seed like the Lakers, they could just make them so tired. I don't know. By the time the finals come around, that whatever team comes out the East, whether it be the Raptors, I think the Raptors are going to be very hard to beat. I would kind of almost pick them as my sleeper team. That might be a hot take in itself, that I think they have a really solid chance of repeating. So that's just my hot take. I think that I can see no number one seed team winning the finals this year, just because of the circumstances. There's a lot of changes. I just see a big thing happening. I think it's going to be a great finals.
Man, I'm upset with Ethan because he did take my hot take that I was cooking, or slightly, but this is also basketball related. So I think, like you said, Jordan, there's a lot of depth in this year's NBA with in regards to teams and good teams. And I'm thinking, I really think there could be two sleeper Eastern and Western Conference finals that we're not anticipating.
Two on each side?
Right off the bat. Yeah, on each side.
Okay.
I think in the Eastern Conference, I really would not be surprised, and it's going to depend on how the brackets shake out, but I could really see the Raptors and the Heat being the last two teams in the Eastern Conference. And I think that series would be some of the best basketball we could have ever seen played. Raptors against the Heat. Seriously, don't underestimate the quality of basketball that they play.
Phil? What do they fucking play?
What do they play?
They play great fucking basketball.
Tell them. Tell them.
They play not Kings basketball.
Yes.
Facts.
Let's
Facts. And then in the Western Conference too, there's just, from 1 to 7, those are all great teams. But I think two teams that could really make a run and upset and go all the way are the Mavericks and the Nuggets. I could see those two teams both going to the Western Conference Finals in a very sneaky way.
Yeah.
So
No.
that's my hot take. This is not like it was when the Warriors were around. There's not a clear-cut favorite. This could really go anywhere. So let's just enjoy the ride.
Can you believe how, like, we always talk about how good the West is, but my gosh, this is just another year where it's just so fucking deep. Especially with
1 to
being in the
7, it's
bubble.
really good.
There's no traveling. Like, we could really see any team out the West damn near.
No home court advantage, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, don't sleep on the Suns sneaking up in that 8 spot and making some noise. I know y'all saw TJ Warren with 50 points the other night.
No, he's on the
He's on the Pacers now.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Oh,
Let's
man.
go.
No love for the Suns, then. The Suns are trash, and the Pacers.
Wow.
The Pacers are gonna
No
get blown out by
conviction.
the Heat. So,
He was on the TJ Warren train only.
well, I mean, what else the Suns are gonna bring to the table? Let's be real here. Ricky Rubio, he was good for he was good for the first 15 games of this season.
Aaron
That
Baines,
was
bro.
Aaron Baines, exactly. DeAndre Ayton somehow putting up 18 and 8, but still not looking good.
I have a question. With the Kings very clearly being out of it, what is the one team that you are going to be rooting for now?
Like
Kings
in
fans-
the whole thing, or for the 8 seed?
No, for the whole thing.
The Heat, no doubt. I'm going for the Heat, bro.
Okay. Not the Thunder. You're picking the Heat over the Thunder.
Yep, that's
Okay.
my team for this playoffs. I'm going for the Heat.
You already know the answer, Goose. You know I'm going for the Los Angeles Lakers and LeBron James. Win it for Kobe, man. Put all the rivalries aside. They deserve another banner in the rafters for Kobe Bean. Let's just get it done. Get it done. That's all I
I
gotta say.
respect that, but I'm going to be rooting for the Raptors. I just appreciate them as
Yeah,
a whole.
That's
That's
a fair
gonna be
point
my
too.
team. And it's very tough for me because I also do want the Bucks to win because just, I've always, like I've been talking about, I want teams that don't usually win to win. So it would just be a great story for the Bucks to win and finally just bring some winning basketball to the city of Milwaukee.
That would be great because that's a mid-market team like Sacramento, and you can show
Yeah.
the blueprint for how you can succeed as a mid-market team. So yeah, Bucks would be up there too for me.
I fuck with that. I could see the Kobe angle, but I'm just too much of a LeBron hater to allow that to happen.
What about LeBron James, bro?
I don't know. It's gonna be a good time. I'm really disappointed by the Kings, but nonetheless, it'll be a good time.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any closing remarks before we head off into the rest of the night?
Yeah, I got something to say about the Kings. If you'll see my background here. So this is a foul called on Mike Bibby here by when getting elbowed in the face by the late, great Kobe Bryant. So I just wanted to remind our whole entire audience that Game 6 of the 2002 Western Conference Finals was rigged for the Los Angeles Lakers. The Sacramento Kings were cheated out of an NBA championship that year. And, tell your extended family, tell your loved ones about that. Don't
See,
let
bro?
that story die.
The Lakers got that chip that year. It's good. They don't need one this year. So
Law of averages, right? They bad karma.
yeah. What about you, Youngie? What you got to say before we send them off?
I mean, if you stuck in this long, thank you for doing it. I'm celebrating 22 this week, and
Hell yeah. We got to be really messed up for the next podcast. We're going to
I'ma
celebrate
just-
your birthday.
Facts.
it's gonna be a rough night for me. So there's that.
Ethan, what's the over under line from Vegas on your girlfriend using the Taylor Swift line for your 22nd birthday? You thinking 5 times this week? 6?
I'm gonna say Over under is going to be 4.
Okay.
And over is going to be we'll give it a plus 220 favorite. So you got to throw in 220 to get $100 back. And
I'm still taking the over.
Under, I'm gonna go with a 150 underdog. So you throw $100 down, you get 150 back if it's under.
Okay.
Over under 4. So, yep, I'm coming at you with the bets.
What you got, Goose? You taking the over or the under?
She's definitely going to say it over 10 times, so there's really no need for me to even bet on
Easy
it.
money.
All right. This was the Couch Sports Talk podcast. Thank you for joining us. This was episode 6. Thank you for joining us on this long journey to get to this point. We're going to start doing episodes every Monday and Friday. We are filming them just so you guys know if the story is a little bit out of date from like a day. We film them on Sunday and Thursday nights. Actually, I was meaning to talk to you guys about that. Well, we might have to change when football season starts. When they start having Sunday night games, we might have to change it up.
If.
Yeah, if.
Big
But yeah, we'll see that going forward. I'm your boy Goozy. I'm here with philanthropist and Young E. Thank you for joining us. Please leave a like and also, man, just comment. We want to be able to talk about some of the shit that those people in the internet say. So, there's some very crazy takes, and we would like to talk about them here on the show. Thank you for joining us once again, and have a good night, guys.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good one.